Revelation chapter 15 begins with, "And I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues, for in them is filled up the wrath of God." Celestially, there are 7 starmen, and according to the ancients, stars were called angels, as well as angels being called angels. The 7 starmen are Ophiuchus, Perseus, Aruga, Orion, Hercules, Bootes, and Aquarius. They correspond, however, to actual angels. Ophiuchus plays the part of Michael in the book of Revelation as we see him wrestling with the old serpent, and Perseus plays the part of Raphael. Aruga plays the part of Gabriel. Orion plays the part of Uriel. Hercules plays the part of Seraquel. Bootes plays the part of Hananiel. And Aquarius plays the part of Raquel. Now, the first 4 angels were supposed to be according to the book of Enoch. The book of Enoch is the one, by the way, that mentions all 7 angels. And the first 4 are supposed to be the ones who would cast Belial, or Satan, into the pit. And so when we see these that are celestially taken care of, they're also supposed to be something that is brought down to the earth in the form of this war from the 1QM War Scroll, which is a discussion of the war of Moses that Moses had foretold in his testimony as he closed off speaking to the tribes of Israel. And the 1QM War Scroll explains that there will be shields and that these shields will be placed on towers. There will be 4 towers, and the names on the shields of the 4 towers will be Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Uriel. So this shows us how the mountain of God is to be likened unto the Great Pyramid, which is a picture of the celestial pyramid, which is also the temple of God. As we're understanding that there are 7 angels, we also want to understand that they are called spirits, and the Royal Psalms is a scroll that is written by King David among the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it tells you that King David wrote the songs of the Sabbath sacrifices and also the Thanksgiving hymns and other scrolls. One statement within it says there are 7 spirits who will give you reliable decisions. If you don't know about them, listen. And what this has to do with is that these 7 angels are going to give a testimony, and that testimony is going to have to do with what's going on in a war that's coming to take place when the Syrian invades the land of Israel. Micah 5:5 states, "This one will be our peace when the Assyrian invades our land, when he tramples our citadels. Then we will raise against him 7 shepherds and 8 leaders of men." This means that there will be 7 men who will be like unto these 7, and the 8th will be wearing the high priest's robe in helping to command this army. According to the scroll, also it says of the divine spirits, "They shall be judged, and they shall not come to the committee without those who provide plans and knowledge of the utterly holy, light and insight, the war of the godlike." So we're supposed to see this within the heavens. It also goes on and says, "Surely the weapons of the warfare belong to the God of divine beings, and the armies of heaven and the wonders of all the divine spirits shall run at his command, while the voice of tumult with his might, armies of divine spirits at war in the clouds." So the things that we're supposed to be seeing that take place on the earth are also going to be things that are going to have to do with the heavens themselves. And this also has to do with the heavenly temple and the statutes that are going to be seen within the heavenly temple. So one of the things that we want to read is 4Q400. It says, "In the assembly of all the Elam of knowledge and in the councils of the godlike spirits, he inscribed his statutes for all spiritual creatures and his glorious judgments for all who establish knowledge." the people who possess his glorious insight, the godlike beings who draw near to knowledge. It goes on and says in 4Q 400, they are honored among the camps, godlike beings of the Elohim, reverenced by mortal council, the godlike spirits of seven glorious princes. So going over this, we want to see that the 1QM War Scroll says that the saints who will come will be learned in statutes, who hear the voice and see the angels. What they're actually seeing is the vision of Jacob. The Thanksgiving hymns explains that what the teacher will be singing about. He says, before me are luminaries in their mysteries, stars in their courses, and the battle of the heavenly heroes will span the globe. Within the celestial heavens, there are seven starmen, and they are fighting the seven serpents. This is known about throughout the whole world. Even within Mexico, we understand that Mexico has a pyramid built to the sun and other pyramids as well. And we understand that one of the things that they would do was that they would have a ceremony that they would call Popol and what would happen at the time of the equinox, there would be seven men chosen from each of the sides, seven men which would represent the seven starmen, and seven men that would represent the seven serpents. And they would have war with each other. It would be a volleyball game, kind of, I think, looking towards being a volleyball of the sun. And those who would lose would have their heads cut off. When we're looking at the blessings of the war that are recited by the leaders in the morning after the battle, it says, blessed is the God of Israel, who guards loving kindness for his covenant and the appointed times of salvation for the people he redeems. He has called those who stumble into wondrous accomplishments, and he has gathered a congregation of the nations for annihilation without remnant, in order to raise up in judgment those whose heart has melted, to open the mouth of the dumb to sing God's mighty deeds, and to teach feeble hands for war. What this is speaking of is the face of Jacob, which is Jerusalem. Isaiah foretold a sign. He said, surely your changing of things upside down shall be esteemed as potter's clay. Shall the thing framed say of he who made it, thou hast not done this? And then he said, the face of Jacob would not wax pale. All this had to do with the vision of God, which was said to be a sealed book, and that vision was the vision that Jacob beheld. The microprosopis, or face in Jerusalem, is a face that was there from the beginning. In the beginning, it said, and that word actually meant the face. So the idea is that this face from the beginning existed. The ancients called it the face of God. Scripture in Isaiah says, to what shall you liken the image of God? Have you not known? Have you not heard? It is he who sits upon the circle of the earth. This face lays upon the foundation stone, and underneath it are three circles, one being called the circle of the earth. The idea is that the vision of Jacob is supposed to be made known and is provided to us by none other than King David. Scripture tells us that King David shall be their king, and the story that King David offered for us is the story of the vision of Jacob. And the vision of Jacob is that which is supposed to be saving the saints at the time of the end as they begin to understand the vision of Jacob. In the Book of Secrets, which is 1Q 27 and 4Q 299 through 301 in the Dead Sea Scrolls, says, the vision is sealed up from you, and you have not properly understood the eternal mysteries. This, again, is the vision of Jacob that Isaiah spoke of. The vision is a sealed book. The Qumran prophecies will come to pass, the book warns. This is all ready to happen. It is a true oracle, and by this it shall be known to you that it cannot be averted. Apparently addressing Israel at the end time, it says, they did not know the secret of the way things are, nor did they understand the things of old, and they did not know what would come upon them. So they did not rescue themselves without the secret of the way things are. The secret of the way things are have to do with a celestial temple And all of that is going to be part of the book of Revelation story as well. Revelation 15, verse 2 says, I saw, as it were, a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that had gotten victory over the beast, and over the image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, standing upon the sea of glass, having the harps of God. And they sang the song of Moses, King of saints. Who shall not fear thee? O Lord, glorify thy name. Thy judgments are made manifest. So here we see that within the celestial heavens there is a harp, and that harp is called Vega, which means he shall be exalted. The root occurs also in the opening of Moses, quoted above, and Bullinger even noted this, saying, is not this wonderfully expressive? So as we look into the story of the book of Moses, we're going to be looking at Deuteronomy 31:32, and we're going to help understand some of the things that are supposed to be testified of this mountain, which is like unto a pyramid, which is the Jerusalem Mount of God, and how it's going to take place within the coming war. Moses addressed the tribes of Israel and was speaking of it. It says, I will surely hide my face in that day, and in that day for all the evils which they have wrought, and in that they are turned to other gods. He says, therefore, write this song for you and teach it to the children of Israel. Put it in their mouth, for this song may be a witness for me against the children of Israel. Israel today does not believe in God. Officially, they have voted God out. Moses went on and said, for when I shall have brought them into the land which I swore unto their fathers, and floweth with milk and honey, and they shall have eaten and filled themselves and waxed fat, then they shall turn unto other gods and serve them and provoke me and break my covenant. And it shall come to pass, when many evils and troubles are befallen them, that this song shall testify against them as a witness, for it shall not be forgotten out of the mouths of their seed. For I know their imagination which they go about, even now, before I have brought them into the land which I swear. Moses therefore wrote this song the very same day for the children of Israel. Moses went on in Deuteronomy 32 to tell you the song. Give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O ye earth, the words of my mouth. My doctrine shall drip as the rain, my speech shall distill as the dew, as small rain upon the tender herb and showers upon the grass. Moses was calling heaven and earth to witness against them. Moses said, because I will publish the name of the Lord, ascribe ye greatness unto the Lord. He is the rock, his work is perfect. For all his ways are judgment, a God of truth, without inequity, just and right is he. Now this matches what the song is spoken of in Revelation 15:3. So the song of Moses that it's talking about is this song. It's not the one in Exodus. Revelation 15:3 said, and they sing the song of Moses, the servant of God, the song of the Lamb, and it says, great and marvelous are thy works. That matched greatness unto our God. He is the rock. His work is perfect. Then it says, when it says, Lord God Almighty, just and true, that matched God of truth, without iniquity, just and right is he. So it says, just and true are thy ways, thou King of saints in Revelation. Who shall not fear thee, O Lord, and glorify thy name? That matched Deuteronomy, where it says, I will publish the name of God, I will publish the name of the Lord, ascribe ye greatness unto our God. He is the work, he is the Lord, he is the rock, his work is perfect. The word Lord here is the Yud-He-Vav-He, or the Tetragrammaton, and when God said, let there be light, according to the Jews, God placed his name, the Tetragrammaton, upon the rock. So, Moses is speaking of the rock, and Revelation is speaking of the rock, and what's going on here? Revelation goes on and says, for thou art holy, for all nations shall come and worship before thee, for thy judgments are made manifest. And this is what's supposed to be made manifest, that Moses foretold that this rock was going to be part of the judgment of Israel against the tribes, against those who came to fight against the tribes. So Moses goes on and says, "Do ye thus requite the Lord?" And then he goes on and says, "People according to the number of the children of Israel, for the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. He found him in a desert land, in a waste howling wilderness. He led him about, he instructed him, he kept him as the apple of his eye." So what we're supposed to be seeing is what the eye of Jacob saw, which is the vision of Jacob. And Moses continues on, and he says, "So the Lord," that is the Yud-He-Vav-He, "alone did lead him, and there was no strange God with him. He made him ride on high places of the earth," and goes on and talks about, "But Jeshurun waxed fat and kicked, and thou art waxen fat, thou art grown thick," that's Israel, "thou art covered with the fatness. Then he forsook God which made him, and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation." In other words, they didn't care about the rock in Israel. It says they provoked him to jealousy with a strange God. These people have proclaimed now that the rock that is not our rock, the rock that is the rock of the dome of the rock, is one and the same as the rock of the foundation stone of the world. And that's not true. He goes on, and Moses goes on and says, "With abominations provoked they him to anger. They sacrificed unto devils, not to God, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that they came newly up, whom your fathers feared not." And it says, "Of the rock that begat thee thou art unmindful, and hast forgotten God that formed thee." And this is the rock. He goes on, and he's talking about these events that are supposed to take place. And God says, "Our hand is high, and the Lord has done all this. For they are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. Oh, that they were wise, and that they understood this, and that they would consider their latter end. How should one chase 1,000, and two put 10,000 to flight, except their rock had sold them, and the Lord had shut them up? For their rock is not our rock, even as our enemies themselves being judges. For their vine is the vine of Sodom, and the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall, and clusters are bitter. Their wine is the poison of dragons, and the cruel venom of asp. Is not this laid up in store with me, and sealed among my treasures?" God is telling us that the hiding place holds the dragon's son, and that this is something that the Jews had done. The Jews made a covenant with death. That is, when Satan had entered into Judas, they made a covenant for 30 pieces of silver, and this is also given within the Isaiah 28 text. For as it's speaking of the water overflowing the hiding place, some unusual words are used, nephil and yesod, and one has to do with a quote that talks about "weigh me my price, 30 pieces of silver," and the other has to do with that they have covenant against my anointed. That's the only other times that these verbs are used, and therefore God is telling the secret that Judas will be the Antichrist, that his body is in the hiding place. That is the hiding place for the tabernacle, and when the water comes from Jerusalem, which is underneath the rock, it will overflow the hiding place. God goes on and speaks from Moses. He says, "And he shall say, where are their gods, their rock in whom they trusted?" He says, "For I will lift up my hand to heaven and say, I live forever, if I whet my glittering sword and my hand take hold on judgment." That's what the song was supposed to be in the book of Revelation, that God would manifest the story of judgment. And all of that takes place through the Song of Moses, which everybody needs to know. And Moses came and spoke all the words of this song in the ears of the people. And Moses made an end of the words to all of Israel.